Hi, it's Bumbleberry, and this time we're going to do Diana's route, and because last time we brought her back to life, she should be super excited to see us. And I'm sorry, the mic quality will be better in a second, I promise. But in Seduce Me 1, she was supposed to be engaged to James, who either left and fell in love with me, so he didn't return back to help her out with his crazy dad, or he just didn't give a crap and stayed in the human world anyway. So hopefully she'll be really happy to see us!
Awesome! Alright then. Diana's a very interesting character, huh?
I do like her.
Anyway, I have one last question for you. Some people like hearing the...
Yeah, I know. There's trigger warnings.
Alright then. Oh, just so you know, though, anytime you have the...
I know. We can have sex. We don't have to have sex. Ooh, it says a queen's understanding is my new achievement. Mika. I was in love with a succubus. It was true. I had fallen for the charms of a succubus, and I was about to dive headfirst into the demon world with her to save her kingdom.
Do you have any regrets?
None. I smiled as Diana held me in her arms and carried us both through the night sky. We had shared a sweet kiss, the first of hopefully many in the future, and we're about to cast a spell to enter the demon world. So this starts like right after the first game, her route. Diana looked to the ground that was far below us and pointed her free hand down towards it, closing her eyes. Tenebrae. As the last word left her mouth, a large purple pentagram appeared in the grass before twisting and becoming a black void. I gripped onto Diana, scared at what I was seeing.
Last chance.
Oh, okay, just, take me home. I gulped at the sight, not sure what to make of this. Was this really what I wanted to do? My curiosity, however, guided my decision and forced me to take a deep breath. I closed my eyes and let calm wash over me before looking up at Diana. Let's go. Diana smiled and wrapped both arms around me, laying a protective hand over my head.
Hang on.
Okay, I'm not letting go if we're going into the demon world. I tightened my grip on Diana, obeying her command. As I held tight, I felt the air quickly began to rush past our bodies as Diana tilted back and began to let us fall towards the ground. Was she insane? Obviously, she was after James, who was clearly in love with me. I looked at Diana, seeing her smirk at me before closing her eyes. I did the same, naturally preparing for an impact with the ground. What I felt was a cool rush of energy brushing over my skin, as if I had fallen into water. I slowly opened my eyes and found myself staring into a vast dark space, holding on to a woman who was no longer wearing clothes. Was she wearing clothes before? She never wears clothes. I was clinging to a woman who had no clothing, but instead had purple marks across her skin and horns adorning her head. However, I could tell that this woman was still Diana, just by looking into her eyes. She has always looked like this, pretty much, like the whole time we've known her. Technically she didn't have her horns out. She wore a fancy black dress. I guess she didn't look like this, never mind. Diana smiled at me and kissed my forehead before tightening her hold on me and muttering softly. I held onto her body as I felt us begin to move through the space, as if a giant fan had pushed us forward. Onward we continued through the darkness, with me unsure of where we were going and Diana guiding the way. We began to slow, and soon a small light had appeared, growing slowly as we got closer to it. I had to shut my eyes as it began to consume us. Nom nom noms. I felt weightless. I couldn't feel anything except the woman in my arms, and it felt somehow exquisite. I wanted to drown in this feeling, become lost in it. However, our journey through the light was coming to an end. The light around us faded away, and soon I found myself lying on Diana as she lay on a stone floor. The air, however, smelled of fire and blood. Why is there fire? What is this? Oh, it's... What's up, Saero? I seem to have, commandeered your lady. A loud shout forced me to look over and see a man running at me with a spear and a rage-filled expression. I screamed and rolled off of Diana, scooting away to avoid being skewered. As he continued towards me, I screamed.
No!
Why am I screaming? Doesn't seem like a very Mika thing to do. I looked up to see Diana kneeling in front of me and gripping the man's spear, pointing it away from her. Look at this. This is just perfect expressions. The man stared wide at Diana as she glared back.
My lady, you live?
Of course I do. I told you I would return, and thus I have.
Duh, Saero. Obviously, do you even know who you're talking to? The man gave a small sigh of relief, lowering his weapon and propping it up to lean against it. As I examined him, now that he wasn't gunning for me, he was wounded and exhausted, panting heavily and gripping his spear tightly.
I'm so glad.
As he finally toppled over, Diana gasped and rushed over, kneeling beside him. Oh no, are we going to discover what happened to her family?
Saero!
I rushed over as well, wanting to see what was going on. Who was he? Why did he attack me? And why was the room on fire?
Saero, what happened?
We were attacked by the Demon Lord. He took advantage of your absence.
I began to cough violently. We needed to get out of this room, wherever we were. Diana, we need to get out of here. Diana nodded and grabbed my hand and Saero's, chanting under her breath. The room around us began to shift, as if it were changing instead of us moving. Oh, as if it were changing instead of us moving. Soon we were outside a castle, staring at it as flames erupted from each window. That stinks. Diana's house is totally going up in flames. Diana's face was of pure shock, staring at the castle in absolute terror. All of the color, besides for the purple marks on her skin, had faded to a pale white in horror.
We drove them back, but the flames are too powerful.
At that moment, something in Diana's eyes changed. Her anger sparked, and she stood, quickly walking around us and towards the castle. Diana?
Come! I command thee, white winds! Crush these fires beneath your hands!
I stared as the wind in the air quickly began to pick up, and a purple glow began to surround Diana's body. It was like a storm was rushing towards us, but there was no rain or thunder, just wind. The winds forced back the flames that danced in the windows, and smoke began to rise from each one, signaling the death of the fire. The windows continued to be filled with wind and air, most likely to kill the flames deep within the walls. So no one else was able to do this kind of stuff? She's going to be exhausted. We need to give her some sweet love. I, however, could only stare at Diana. Her body was rigid and her gaze was intently focused on the stone castle. Soon the winds began to die out, and all that was left was smoke rising from the windows into the dark purple and black sky.
You did it. How?
She looks mad. Diana looked to Saero, intensity still embedded in her eyes.
Where are the king and queen?
I heard Saero's breath hitch, and I turned to look at him. He had a look of pure pain and guilt. What had happened? Diana walked over and stared at him, now almost glaring daggers at him as she clenched her fists at her sides.
Speak, Saero!
The imp demons. While we were fighting the flames and the army, the imp demons snuck through our defenses.
My heart, despite not fully understanding the situation, began to tighten. Something was incredibly wrong. Saero shut his eyes as a pair of demons I assumed to be allies rushed over and began casting magic over his body, closing his wounds. Can you imagine if she was here without us? Like, she would have failed to bring back a hubby. She couldn't unite things, and he already set everybody on fire. Even if she had brought back one of the boys, he still would have done it. So stupid. I hate the Demon Lord.
They snuck into their room.
Diana suddenly turned and bolted towards the castle, causing me to jump up. Diana? I began to sprint after her, following her inside the castle and trying to keep up with her. Her panicked breath kept me following her direction, despite her fast twists and turns through ashy corridors.
No.
I could hear Diana sobbing, praying if she ran. I did my best to keep up, not wanting to lose her and not wanting her to be alone right now. This is terrible. Diana, Snuffleupagus, you'll be okay. We turned into a long hallway that had a pair of golden doors at the end. They were unscathed, as if the flames had not disturbed the door. Or perhaps the room behind us.
Please be alive. Please!
Diana bolted for the doors and began to pull them open, grunting at the weight. I stopped running, skidding forward from the abrupt stop. Whomever she wanted alive, I hoped that they were as well. As the doors finally opened, however, the foul stench of blood erupted from behind them, the scent filling my nostrils. Ugh! Oh no. Diana flung the doors wide open and could only stare at the sight we both saw. Blood. Blood covered the floor, the walls, the ceiling. The entire room was painted in gore, skin, bone, and massive amounts of blood. Yuck! Oh my gosh, I didn't realize we were playing Layers of Fear. Only 3 things, barely coated in red, stood in the middle of the room on the ground. 2 broken crowns and a small tiara that was barely large enough to fit a newborn's head.
No.
This is so sad. Diana slowly walked into the room, the blood on the ground painting her bare feet, and she fell to her knees in front of the items, staring down at them. I couldn't bring myself to enter the room with her. I watched as she lifted them to her chest, curling her shoulders over herself and shaking almost violently.
Father. Mother. Audibel.
As she continued to grieve over the ornaments in her hands, a dark, almost deadly and evil-looking aura surrounded her body. It began to flicker and grow like a dark flame that wanted to engulf the room she knelt in. As it reached an apex and began to violently flicker through the room around her, Diana arched back and screamed to the ceiling, her voice heavily laced with magic, pain, and rage.
I'll kill you!
It's okay. It's okay. We will have a snack and maybe clean up. It'll be terrible and wonderful. Watching her body burn in the intense black and purple flame-like energy made my heart stop in fear. I had never seen her like this, and I was scared as to where her anger would drive her next. Let's stop her. We can't let her self-destruct. As heartbreaking as the situation was, I couldn't let anger consume her. Not like this. If she wanted to vent her rage, then it was better to aim it at the ones who wronged her, not let it burn in the room where her family died. I stepped into the room, blocking the waves of energy from my face with my arms, and eventually made my way to the screaming Diana. Diana! My words couldn't reach her. I stepped closer, almost towering over her, before dropping to my knees, bracing myself, and wrapping my arms around Diana. She seriously needs a hug. Good going, Mika. Her screaming stopped, and her body froze within my arms. Diana quaked like a shivering child in my arms as I pressed my forehead against her hair. Diana, we'll get your revenge. But you must save that fight. But you must save that rage for the fight. I was met with silence as my reply. After a moment, Diana finally slumped into my arms while the energy around her died out.
You're right.
Diana and I left the room with her. With her unable to turn around and look back. We walked through the ashy corridors of the castle, Diana silenced by the sight and by her own grief. My heart was heavy for her. Still, the demon lord who had done this was still a threat at large, and who knew when he would return? Diana led the way to a room, which, as expected, was as burnt as could be. However, Diana waved her hand through the air, casting some sort of silent spell. This room looks familiar. Through some sort of prestidigitation, the ashen soot in the room vanished, and the furniture and decor were repaired. Can we do that with her family? We at last stepped in, with Diana slowly lying down on the bed, unable to carry on any further. Looking at Diana's face, her eyes were puffy and red, while her skin almost became void of any color beyond the taint of her demon marks. If she wasn't breathing, one would assume that she was dead. Diana stared at the ceiling, a world of emotion swimming in her eyes. Despite what had happened, at last she spoke.
I need to send you back.
What? Excuse me? Now is not the time to think about me, and I knew it. Besides, I came here for a reason. I wasn't going to go back knowing that Diana needed support. I had no regrets in coming here, and I would help her through this. She has a boyfriend, you know. I mean, not that we're not an excellent girlfriend. No, Diana.
It's too dangerous here.
I don't care, Diana. Diana slowly sat up and looked to me, a form of weak anger in her eyes. However, she knew that it was fruitless to argue with me. After all, she made a deal with me, and I could see the obligations to obey buried behind her anger. Diana closed her eyes and lowered her head.
The Demon Lord will most likely return.
Yeah, great. Let's punch him in the face. And we'll be ready for him. I gently took Diana's hand and lifted her chin so that she had to look at me. Do you think the guys will still come visit us in this route? I don't know. The anger that was plaguing her melted into sadness and broken hope as she stared back into my gaze. There were remnants of rogue tears adorning her face, and seeing her so scarred made me frown. I knew that we would get through this. We just needed to rest for now. We would deal with issues this world brought after.
My lady?
Diana and I turned our heads to see Saero, competition, by the open door, and I stepped away from Diana, giving her space. Behind him, multiple soldiers, servants, and other demons rushed down the hall, most likely to check for other issues, and possibly try to fix the damage on the castle.
Yes, Saero?
Who is this human?
For a brief moment, I could see a look of disdain in his eyes as he looked at me. However, it only lasted a second as he looked to Diana, waiting for her to reply to him.
Saero, this is my guest. She came back with me to...
Be my girlfriend. Diana looked at me, trying to find the words in my eyes. What was I to her? My curiosity bubbled as I also awaited the completion of her answer.
She came to aid me in this war.
That's it.
What of your fiancé? What of the other sons?
They are gone. They have disappeared into the human world, and I can no longer trace them. I have failed.
Your fiancé, please. James was never yours, my darling. You're a beautiful woman. You have many talents. Saero is adorable, and he's your little man thing, and I love it. But I am also fabulous. And James, we don't need him. Well, I can have him, but you can't have him. He's mine. I feel so selfish when I play these, like, harem games. I'm like, yeah, no one else can have happiness with anyone else. Just be. But I do root for Saero and Diana, I think, out of all the couples. What do you guys think? Can you be happy for the other couples? I definitely am not. Like, when I see the other wives, every time I just narrow my eyes. I'm like, you shouldn't be here. Not that you can't exist in fan fiction, but you know, whatever. The guilt and grief in Diana's voice deepened, most likely reminding herself that she saw the results of failing. Oh, moments ago. I mean, even if you had seduced one of them, you wouldn't have been back in time. Saero, however, stepped up to Diana and knelt in front of her, surprising me. What was he doing? He was a guard, first off. Why was he being bold enough to step to her?
You didn't fail, my lady. The Demon Lord attacked us despite giving us his word that he would wait for you to return. He broke his end of the agreement.
Who else is shocked?
I know.
Staring at Diana and Saero, I could see that they had a very close and deep connection. Was Saero a friend, or was he something more? I could recognize the emotions within Saero's eyes as he looked up at Diana. He looked to be in love with her, or at least had some form of ultimate care for his lady. Saero gently took one of Diana's hands and placed his lips upon it. Instantly, I could almost see energy flow from his body into hers from the kiss alone. Was this how energy transferal worked when you weren't the giver or receiver? I don't understand what that sentence meant. The color in Diana's skin returned, and she let out a sigh with her body relaxing at last. Saero, however, continued to keep his lips over her hand. Excuse me! Something in my gut irked me about him. Yeah, sure, you know what? You guys enjoy that. I mean, to be fair, she just lost her whole family. She can probably use all the support she can get. Saero was just giving Diana his energy. There was nothing wrong with that. Why would I get upset over it? I wouldn't. Besides, Diana needed energy to recover from her explosion of energy and from her quenching the fire on the castle. She used a lot of energy. Diana smiled at Saero and softly pulled her hand away from him, making him look up at her, not in surprise, but with a smile of his own.
Thank you, Saero.
She looked so happy. Isn't she a cutie
It is
pie?
my duty to serve you, my lady.
Saero stood and stepped back, looking to his mistress and to me.
Do we plan to retaliate, my lady?
We will. I expect the Demon Lord will come for a second attack, not realizing that I have returned.
Well, what can we do then? Diana looked to me, a small glimmer of fear in her eyes, but her resolve rekindled, and she let a serious visage cover her expression.
I will meet him on the battlefield should he come again.
My lady, you've just returned!
That I have. But the Demon Lord will not care if he learns of my return. If anything, news of my return will spur him to attack sooner than later. I must be there and stop him.
Diana looked to Saero with a cold expression, making Saero stand up straight like the guard he was meant to be.
Tell everyone to mend their wounds and prepare for a second invasion tomorrow. I expect the Demon Lord will be ruthless enough to attack in the morning. Let everyone know as well that their princess has returned.
You're my princess too, Diana. Saero nodded and turned to the door to do his job. Before he exited the room, however, Diana called out one last thing to him, which seemed to make him freeze.
And when you are done, please retire to my room. I will rest here for the night with my guest.
As you wish, my lady.
He goes to his... Look at that disappointed face. He's like, how dare you? I'm wearing your colors, woman. So she lets him sleep in her room? I mean, I guess that makes sense for protection reasons. But if he's her guard, shouldn't he kind of hang out with us? Whatever. We're good. We're fine. With that, Saero left and closed the door behind him. The way Saero answered Diana seemed forced, but I could understand why. After all, if he had feelings for her, I became an obstacle for him as I was with her. Does he know that we're, like, romantically together, though, or does he just suspect? That didn't stop me, however, from wondering where I stood with Diana. She was going to stay here with me? This was my room? Diana let out a sigh and moved in the... where did I go? And moved in the bed to rest against the back wall of the bed.
Come, we must rest.
Mwah! I nodded and walked over, lying beside her. However, instead of Diana laying down, she guided my head to rest on her lap. You're not going to sleep?
Demons don't sleep, dear. At least not in this world.
Why not?
Because if we shut our eyes for too long, then we open ourselves up for someone to take advantage of us, or kill us when we're not aware.
Like Saero in my sleep? I gulped, now worried and frightened to sleep. Diana chuckled, however, and petted my head.
You can sleep, however. I will be resting, but my eyes will remain open.
Okay. Can you truly rest like that?
Demons and humans are different, dear. Demons can function for years without needing to rest, as long as they continually feed on energy. However, demons can rest to stop spending energy. Thus why we have beds.
Oh, I thought it was for other reasons. My curiosity began to peck at me again, but my exhaustion took control of my body. As I felt my eyes gradually shut, I could hear Diana whisper.
I hope that you don't mind me taking your energy as you sleep.
Well, I guess not, but thanks for asking. Before I let sleep consume me, I shook my head. It was all right. Diana needed as much energy as she could for whatever the Demon Lord had in mind. I felt almost a bit honored that she was taking energy from me, as odd as it was. At last, sleep consumed me. Despite what was happening around me, the world of sleep was peaceful and calm. For the moment, I could truly be at rest. At least for a moment. And we'll continue this next time. Yeah. What did you think? It was very action-packed. And as you guys know, I do love Diana. Like, in real life, I've never loved a woman that way. But I think she's an interesting character, and I can ship her and Mika. I do ship her and Saero. I don't know. This is so, intense, but she's just such a strong character. She's just like, yeah, everyone I know and loved has been killed, and, all those guys rejected me, but I have a girlfriend and a boyfriend, and I'm going to take over the universe, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So I'm so upset that her stupid council is like, oh, she's going mad like the Demon King. Like, how about this woman just had a lot of things happen
in a short period of time? So maybe save the killing her till like 2 years down the road when she's settled into the job. Plenty of time for that kind of stuff. Anyway, on a lighter note, I hope you have a wonderful day and that you stay sweet, and please like and comment below. Also, do you think I should break Saero and Diana up? I don't know. Or should we all just be like one happy family? It'll be a surprise. We'll find out. I'll see you next time. Bye!